question.
Next question.
What is your favorite project you have worked on?
That's probably kind of the same for me. I might skip that one because I think it's the same. Yeah. The favorite project.
No, so my favorite project is different.
Okay. All right.
So-
I'm
so-
curious to hear where this goes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, so my favorite project is the work that we've done for rodeo. So we've done a number of different
Oh, that's a
projects
good one.
for rodeo. We've done stuff for their website, and we've been working on this lengthy new version of their secretary system. Which the reason why I love that one is because I've done on the job field research. So with the work that we've done, we've been to NFR. I know you've been more years than me, but I've probably been the
And I love
last 5 years.
Yeah.
Going out to Vegas, going out to Texas, and being there for NFR. Yeah, we're not up there kind of in the rodeo, but being down there with the secretaries and just hearing them go off on some of the announcers, but just hanging out with the secretaries, with the judges, getting to know the secretaries and the judges, getting to know the cowboys and the fans, and just what great people they are. I mean, I love being with the cowboys. I love being with the rodeo fans. I just remember one time I was at one of the rodeos, and just the little kids, these little like 4 or 5 year olds,
So cute.
just how respectful they are. I mean, that community, just the values that they have, the respect that they have, the way that they treat people is
And the
amazing.
cowboy hats. And their cowboy
And the
hats.
cowboy hats. I mean, I love being able to go and do that field research, and that's why I still love having rodeo. I hope they never leave us as a client.
I know. It break my heart.
It's just probably one of the best clients we've had, and just a lot of fun to work with.
Yeah, I'm going to steal Jeff's answer. I got to say, it's hard choosing one favorite, but if I could, it probably would be rodeo as well. And
Yeah, not knocking on all of our other clients. All of our other clients have their own thing, but
so lucky, so blessed to
we
have
don't
wonderful
get
clients.
to go and like hang out at a rodeo.
Yep.
Or like maybe if we got like, well, I would say, sorry to take away from you.
No,
but
no, by all
I
means.
would say the Broncos was fun too.
Broncos was
Like,
fun
when
for
we
the
gotta-
backstage
when we
tours.
gotta
Yeah,
have
for
the-
sure.
The tickets and
uh,
the suite.
Being the only one on the field before opening, game.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty special. But I will say though, I will say that my favorite is rodeo as well, and for a little different reason than you, Jeff. The reason I love rodeo so much is because we did so many different technologies there, and it really, for me, at a personal level, challenged me because it required me to leverage all of my 30 plus years experience, because we're still on legacy AS400 legacy system, still transitioning that into the new modern era. Windows applications, web applications, and mobile applications. It's just and I still get to use my database skills. So as I said, I started out as an Oracle DBA, and now, yes, we've shifted into the cloud for DBs, but it's tapped all of my expertise and just sitting down with the wonderful people, and it's really the people and the rodeo, just salt of the earth, working with wonderful people day in and day out it's just been such a treat, such a pleasure. So yeah, I know I stole your answer. Good question. What's next? Yeah.
Okay. What were the biggest difficulties in creating a business?
Ooh. Not killing each other?
No, I mean, I think you and I, like, we've known each other long enough and
Yeah.
everything that well, it's not a difficulty, but I do want to talk before I get into any of the difficulties. I will say
Yeah.
that the reason why Kevin and I work so well is we learned a few years ago this business philosophy called Traction, or EOS.
Yeah.
And with that, it has this idea of a visionary and an integrator. And the idea of that is, if you think about companies,
Yeah.
very successful companies that have been out there, they all have this visionary and then the behind the scenes integrator.
Yeah.
So you go and you think about Apple. Apple, Steve Jobs, great visionary. He had all of these great ideas.
Yep.
But yet I don't think Steve Jobs really wrote much code. But you had behind the scenes Steve Wozniak.
Yeah.
Not the flashy guy, not the guy who liked being out on stage. Steve Jobs loved being out on stage. But was the guy who got the things done.
Yeah.
And so they both worked together and created this great company, Apple.
Yeah.
And
Sorry for any Apple fans or Apple folks that were there. There were other folks involved, of course. Well done, but absolutely.
But it's like, then you also
It
have.
took the Woz and Steve Jobs together to form that visionary and the integrator.
Another
Yeah.
very prime example is Walt Disney.
Yeah.
Walt Disney,
Yep.
legendary visionary man. I love Disney parks, but I mean, just the things that he thought of.
Yeah.
And then you had his brother Roy, and Roy's job was to make Walt's visions reality.
Yeah.
Sometimes he had to go and say, you know what, that's not possible. But his job was to be that integrator, behind the scenes person.
Yeah.
Making sure that the visionary's role could get, visions could get implemented. And that's the way Kevin and I are. Kevin's a classic visionary. He's got all of these ideas. He's got all of these thoughts about how to make the company better. Whereas I'm a great integrator. I like to go and make sure that the job gets done and do all the behind the scenes stuff. And so good companies have a person who's a visionary and a person who's an integrator so that they don't conflict. Kevin and I are yin and yang. There's things that we do very well together, but we've also got enough differences that we work well together.
Yeah.
Now, as far as difficulties with creating the company, there's not too much I want to get into with that, because I don't want hurt feelings or there's a lot going on with the early creation of the company. That was the most difficult part, was the way in which the company was formed. So CyberLancers formed out of a company called Akavit, which was a digital agency that we were currently working with.
Yeah.
And so we foresaw that when we talk about that we want to be the gold standard, that we want to treat developers right, the way in which Akavit was started as a digital agency, their focus, and rightfully so, was
Right
on
or wrong.
design.
Yeah.
Was on design, because that's the
That's
type
what
of
it
company
was.
that they were.
That's
and
right.
development
Right.
was always the difficulty. And so many times projects went over budget because of development.
Yeah.
They weren't on time because of development. And usually, because what we would say is we weren't given the time, we weren't given the budget.
Right.
So the idea with CyberLancers was to take that development portion out of Akavit, let Akavit focus on design, focus on marketing, and then CyberLancers would focus on the development. And that we would be able to go and be given a budget, be able to give it a
Right.
timeline, and deliver on that budget and timeline.
Right.
So kind of separate out the two items.
Yeah.
So we got approval to do that, and CyberLancers was formed, and out of that, it was, the partnership was divided among the partners of Akavit and myself. But Akavit was going through some turmoil during that time as well.
Difficult times.
Difficult
we'll say.
times.
Yeah.
And some of the partners.
As was all digital agencies. I mean, it wasn't unique to Akavit. It was we're seeing a shift in the industry.
Yeah.
And
And so some partners of Akavit had left, and it made it a little bit more difficult when we were trying to figure out the structure of CyberLancers. And since we brought on the partners out of Akavit, and so that kind of became part of a struggle. Now we were able to clean that up, and Kevin and I, we became the sole partners a few years later. And we've been able to move beyond that and really grow the company
yeah.
after we were able to establish our own identity away from Akavit. We were able to go and decide what the CyberLancers want to be. I don't want to say without the baggage, but that we
Without
were,
the challenges.
without the challenges,
yeah.
we were able to go and strive on our own.
Yeah, and I think that's important. So it isn't, And I agree with you. I think that was one of the biggest difficulties or challenges was to set up the structure correctly for Cyberlancers in the start so that we knew it was going to grow. And we knew that the current structure that we were under before that, unfortunately, it wasn't going to grow. It wasn't going to flourish. And I made a conscious shift. So I'm a serial entrepreneur. So I've been part of many startups. I've had some companies as many as 8 different business partners. And I think by the time that Jeff decided he wanted to really start Cyberlancers, I had come to the conclusion I was going to do it differently. I was going to go from having many business partners with different skill sets and a lot of different opinions, which I thought was a good thing at the time, to having a very similar business partner in the sense that he and I are cut from the same cloth. We believe in the same core values. We're developers at heart. And the only real difference is I'm a dreamer, visionary, and Jeff's a pragmatic executor and does it very well. And that's what I wanted to do. So it was taking many business partners with many different opinions. And this time we were going to do it different. 2 business partners with a shared vision, growth for success.
Yeah, I did think another difficulty with starting Cyberlancers was when we started the company, it was trying to find work. That's always the difficulty when you're starting.
Challenge. Yep.
And so had the thought that we're going to be a development services company and that we'll do any project. And so we're taking on PHP work, Drupal work, some .NET, some WordPress. And I'm a .NET person. And so I was taking on these other projects, and it made it difficult to be able to know, how much exactly is this project going to cost? Because I hadn't worked on them before. I didn't know the time that was going to be in it. Trying to find and interview people who were good in those skills. So I was trying to take on too much at an early phase. Once went and said, nope, that's not going to work. I need to focus on .NET. Then it became a lot easier because knew exactly, having worked with .NET for so long, was able to know exactly how much a project was going to cost. I was able to know that, make sure that we were ensuring good quality, making sure we were hiring good people.
Yeah.
So going with that focus made it a lot easier. Now we've grown and matured as a company to where we're able to expand into new areas because we've got that base with us, but trying to do that too much too early just made it more difficult.
I laugh because that was a lesson I learned in a number of different companies. And it's really when you try to be an expert in all things, you become an expert in nothing. And I hope I helped when I came on board. That was one of the first things that Jeff and I sat down and I said, look, we both know .NET inside and out, 20 plus years experience at the time. Let's become experts in that. And I think it paid off well.
Yeah.
But yeah, definite challenge at the start for sure.
Next.
Yeah, good one.
So this is a 4th question that I need to know. So you guys mainly go with .NET, correct? Or is it .NET Affinity?
.NET.
Okay, .NET. Okay, what are the advantages of .NET development over using tools such as WordPress?
Ooh, a religious war. Them's fighting words.
And I don't want to say there's an advantage with going with .NET over WordPress. That's not a fair thing to say. What I think Kevin and I, what we agree with is that there is a technology for every person.
Yep.
WordPress has its advantages. I mean, WordPress is cheap, if not free in most cases, and does serve a valuable function.
Right.
And it is very good at what it does, which is being a CMS and a blog. It started out as a blog software, and it's very good at doing that.
Absolutely.
For the majority of your sites out there. I'll even say it's the majority. Because the majority of your sites out there are very small business or independents who don't need the big infrastructure that .NET, Sitefinity, Microsoft, that those give you. Now, would I go and put a company like, trying to think of
Big company.
a
We
big
can name
company.
names.
Let's just say a Walmart.
Yeah,
Would I put Walmart on WordPress? No,
no,
because WordPress was never intended to be geared towards a Walmart.
Right.
The security isn't quite there. That's been one of the downfalls of WordPress has been
No.
its security. If you don't keep it, because it is on 90% of the websites out there,
No.
hackers are going to go after it because it's an easy target. And so if you're not constantly upgrading WordPress, you're a target for hackers. So .NET provides more security. It provides more performance. You're able to put it on systems like Azure, which can scale up and scale down. So .NET really works out well for larger companies.
right,
But I'm not going to say that it's for all large
Right.
companies. There are some large companies that do well on Drupal or on some of these PHP-based systems
Sure.
or on a Python-based system, a C++
Or-
system.
cloud-based system altogether.
cloud-based
Yeah,
system.
Optimizely, yeah. Content.
We're not going to go into every company and say you need to have .NET, but if you're invested in Microsoft technologies, if you've been using Microsoft all these years, if you use SQL Server, if your development team is already familiar with Microsoft technologies, then .NET is the way to go.
Great way to go.
When would you say people like, what are some signs of like a company, what they want with their website that they want to switch over to .NET?
I think it's the size, probably,
Yeah.
and some of the performance. I'm not sure if there's quite a line
Yeah.
there, but I think a lot of it comes with integrations too. Like more kind of enterprise level.
Yeah.
It's a really hard question to go and say
Yeah.
when is, because it all depends. You can't go and say, oh, Fortune 500 companies should use .NET versus WordPress,
Right,
because they might not have the website needs
right.
of something more robust.
Yeah. For me, why I think we're very good in a technology role, and this is one of the roles you and I fill, is helping companies set a technology roadmap. It's because we are relatively agnostic. While we're expert in certain areas, we recognize there's always the right tool for the job. And WordPress may be the right tool for the job. .NET is probably the right tool for the job when we're talking enterprise level. And I'm not going to discredit other enterprise level systems. I think you evaluate them all and then you choose the best one, the one that your team's most comfortable with. And kind of you and I have always done our career that way.
Now, with that too, I will say we're seeing a shift in the industry
Absolutely.
to where your back end system doesn't necessarily matter as
It's-
much. So much of
yeah.
it more is front end now, which isn't necessarily .NET, PHP, or any of that. It's more HTML, JavaScript, kind of going back 25 years.
I know.
Back to the start of the internet.
My
where
start of the career is going to be the end of my career.
where Kevin and I started, it was all HTML and JavaScript. There was
Yep.
none of this back end.
We didn't have a choice.
Stuff.
Yeah.
And now we're seeing that again, where it doesn't necessarily matter what your back end system is. It's all about the front end.
Yeah.
And the reason why
And
is
clean code. Yeah, clean code on the front end.
Google,
Yeah.
for better or worse, has forced us into that. Google,
Yep.
with all of their SEO and their search engine rankings, so much of that is on mobile performance. Everyone out there is using a mobile phone and it has to be fast. And Google
Yep.
said, we're going to penalize you if you're not fast on a mobile phone. And so all of the emphasis now has been on making a fast front end and putting everything into HTML and JavaScript, just going back to simple again.